Manchester City is living through one of those moments when the silence before the storm says more than any headline. Preparation for the clash with Liverpool is not just another chapter of the Premier League. It is a test of endurance, strategy, and patience. At the center of it all stands Rodri, the silent brain that keeps Pep Guardiola's machinery moving. When he stops, City's rhythm changes. When he returns, the team seems to breathe again. The latest update on his physical condition came from Pep's measured words. He spoke calmly, but behind the serenity there was caution. He said the player had returned to training, but that it was still not the time to take risks. The muscle problem that emerged against Brentford left recent scars, and the coach, who knows his players' bodies almost like a surgeon, chose to hold him back. Rodri had suffered serious injuries before, and Guardiola knows that his prolonged absence can change the course of the season. The memory is still vivid. The fall against Arsenal, the inevitable surgery, the months of waiting. His return at the end of the previous campaign gave hope, and the Club World Cup proved that the Spaniard still had fire in his eyes. However, the body demands its price. Pep wants him to come back at his peak, not because of the urgency to beat Liverpool, but because he knows the marathon ahead is brutal. The European calendar is a bone grinder, and every wrong decision can cost a trophy. Even so, Rodri's absence opened the door to a new story. Nico Gonzalez, still on the rise, began to occupy the territory that once seemed untouchable. The young Portuguese showed composure, crisp passing, and courage. Against Dortmund, he did not hide. City won 4-1, and even without the Spanish general, the midfield functioned. Guardiola watched closely. It is not just about replacement, it is about succession. And perhaps Nico is writing the first chapters of that transition. Behind the scenes, the message is consistent. City has learned not to rush recoveries. The club monitors every heartbeat, every muscle fiber, every load variation. It is science applied to football. Guardiola often repeats that a season is won in the invisible details, and Rodri is the most visible of them all. His tactical intelligence is the shield that protects the defense. His spatial awareness is the trigger that frees the attackers. Without him, City play well. With him, they play perfectly. But while the fans await the maestro's return, other movements begin to stir in Manchester. The transfer market never sleeps, and the latest name on the radar comes from Italy. Juventus defender Andrea Cambiaso has reappeared as a target in an old City dossier. The club had made an inquiry months ago, but only now has the interest become public. The player himself confirmed that there had been contact. Nothing concrete, just signs of mutual admiration. At 25, Cambiaso is the kind of fullback Guardiola loves. Versatile, technical, and capable of playing inverted, drifting into midfield like a tactical shadow. Since Kyle Walker's definitive departure, City have improvised. Rico Lewis, Abdulkadir Husseinov, and even Mateus Nunes have been tested in the role, but none have fully convinced. Pep seeks a true fullback, someone who understands defensive fundamentals and can still contribute to attacking build-up. Cambiaso's name resurfaces strongly, especially after a solid season at Juventus, where he stood out for his discipline and reading of the game. There is something about how Guardiola selects reinforcements that goes beyond statistics. He does not simply look for athletes, he seeks components that fit within the collective mechanism. Cambiaso, with his intelligence and spatial control, appears to have the right DNA for this fluid system. City's interest, therefore, does not sound like mere curiosity. It is a sign that Pep is already envisioning the next evolution of his team. However, City's market activity is not just about arrivals. Within the club, an impatient generation is demanding opportunities. One name in particular is beginning to draw attention: Jadon Heskey. The son of a former Premier League striker, the youngster has grown under close watch. At 19, he already symbolizes City's academy, the link between past and future. His journey is exemplary. He joined the club at 8, learned every tactical principle under coaches steeped in Guardiola's methodology, became a Premier League 2 champion, shone with goals and assists, and recently made his senior debut. Now the next step is set. He will go out on loan in January. The board believes it is time for him to mature by facing the pressure of packed championship stadiums. This loan policy has been the backbone of City's recent success. Cases such as James McAtee and Harwood Bellis show how the club has turned time away from home into laboratories for growth. Heskey will follow the same path. Interested clubs are already preparing proposals, and Pep approves. He knows that a player's real formation does not end at the training ground. It begins when he must prove alone that he deserves to return. Behind these quiet movements lies a long-term plan. The new sporting director, Hugo Viana, has reorganized the academy, reviewed contracts, and redrawn the map of priorities. City do not just want to compete, they want to sustain their hegemony. To achieve this, they need constant renewal, financial balance, and intelligence in managing talent. The Heskey loan and potential Cambiaso pursuit are parts of the same logic, keeping the machine turning without losing identity. But City's recent history also reveals something deeper. After years of dominance, the club has entered a phase of transition. Idols have left, pillars have aged, and the Premier League, more unpredictable than ever, demands constant reinvention. The squad has changed. Out went De Bruyne, Walker, Gundogan, Ederson, McAtee. In came Donnarumma, Bettinelli, and young players such as Savio and Echeverri. The team is new, but the challenge remains the same, to stay at the top while the world tries to pull them down. Before the duel with Liverpool, City sits second in the table, but the air is one of calculated uncertainty. The win over Dortmund in the Champions League brought confidence, yet Guardiola knows the classic is a different story. It is the kind of match that defines narratives. A victory restores leadership and strengthens belief within the squad. A defeat opens cracks for doubt. And in the middle of this chessboard emerges another name stirring curiosity: Nico Paz, the Argentine who has been dazzling in Serie A under Cesc Fabregas. A former Real Madrid player, Paz has become a symbol of talent and early maturity. City are watching closely but know the negotiation will not be easy. Real still hold a buyback clause that could complicate any move. Even so, the interest is real, and the English club is tracking every development. If Real decide not to exercise that clause, Guardiola could find in Paz the missing link between midfield and attack. The Argentine combines vision, passing precision, and goal threat, all qualities Pep values. Liverpool and Chelsea are also monitoring the situation, but the direct relationship between Guardiola and Fabregas could smooth the dialogue. There is a Spanish connection that transcends borders and clubs. At this stage of the season, City move with the patience of a team that has won everything but still hungers for more. The squad is deep, the system consolidated, yet Guardiola knows the margin for error is minimal. Liverpool, Arsenal, and Tottenham are pressing. Every match is a mental duel, and the absence or return of a player like Rodri can alter the entire structure of a championship. As training continues at the City Football Academy, the atmosphere is one of expectation. Rodri is back to touching the ball naturally. The physios monitor every move, and Guardiola smiles discreetly. He does not say it, but he knows. With Rodri on the pitch, everything makes sense again. When Manchester City begins to reorganize, it feels as though football itself pauses to observe the process. There is something almost ritualistic about the way Guardiola and his staff handle the transition between phases. The return of Rodri, the rise of young talents, and the search for new signings in the market are not isolated events, but chapters of a meticulously designed plan. The club finds itself at a point where past and future collide, and the outcome of that collision could redefine the team's identity. The atmosphere at the City Football Academy reflects this sense of reconstruction. The squad is a mix of generations. On one side, veterans who know the pressure of the grandest stages. On the other, youngsters driven by the ambition to make their own mark. Guardiola, like a conductor, attempts to orchestrate these worlds with near mathematical precision. He understands that each player represents a brushstroke in the new painting City wishes to unveil to the world. Rodri, for instance, is not merely the holding midfielder. He is the emotional balance of the team. His absence forced City to reinvent itself tactically, compensating with movement and intensity for what had once been dictated by the Spaniards' positional intelligence. With him, the team controls the tempo of the match. Without him, the game seems to move faster than it should. That is why every training session bringing him closer to the starting 11 rekindles a quiet hope. The clash with Liverpool could be the turning point, the moment when the machine begins to spin at full speed again. The coaching staff knows that the challenge will not only be physical. Facing Liverpool is a psychological exercise. Klopp's team, even amid renewal, remains Guardiola's most uncomfortable rival. The intensity, the high pressing, the aggression. It is like looking into a mirror and seeing an inverted version of City. Behind the scenes, Pep repeats the same message: precision before haste. Victory will not come from speed, but from control. And control begins with Rodri. While the medical department celebrates the Spaniards' recovery, the sporting sector remains alert in the market. The pursuit of Cambiaso is not merely an attempt to strengthen the defense. It is a long-term strategy. Pep wants to build a backline that acts as an extension of the midfield, with players capable of thinking like creators. The Italian, with his vision and composure, embodies that philosophy. Inside the Etihad corridors, it is said that City have already made initial inquiries to gauge Juventus's stance. The negotiation is delicate. The Italian club faces financial instability, but does not wish to lose promising assets. Cambiaso, at 25, is seen as an investment in stability. Still, City's financial strength and sporting project carry weight. Juventus know that if a concrete offer arrives, refusal will be difficult. Guardiola, however, does not force things. He believes that timing is part of strategy. It was the same with Bernardo Silva, Ruben Dias, and Grealish. Each arrived when the scenario was ripe. The manager does not buy names, he buys moments. And if Cambiaso is next, it will be because the fit is perfect, technically, mentally, and contextually. At the other end of the squad, youth continues to simmer. Jadon Heskey, preparing for his first loan move, feels the blend of anxiety and excitement, typical of someone leaving comfort to face reality. Pep spoke to him personally. He said that a loan is not a demotion, but a rite of passage. Those who return from loan stronger return different, the manager is said to have told him. This is the philosophy that shapes modern City. To develop is not to protect, but to test. As Heskey packs his bags, City prepare to monitor his progress closely. Championship sides, such as Preston and Bristol City, have already shown interest. The plan is simple: to find a club that will make him a starter, so he learns the weight of weekly responsibility. The club knows that academy pressure differs from that of a fan base demanding victory every Saturday. Guardiola believes that is where character is forged. This culture of development has become City's least discussed secret to success. Many see only the trophies and the millions, but the real foundation of consistency lies in how the club shapes mentalities. That is why every move in the squad, loans, renewals, or signings, is part of a self-sustaining system. Guardiola and Hugo Viana work like engineers of a machine that never stops. And on the horizon, the name Nico Paz grows louder. The Argentine, developed at Real Madrid and now a standout at Como, has been a technical and emotional revelation. Under Fabregas's guidance, he has found the freedom to create and attack as both midfielder and winger. City, monitoring his evolution, see in him the type of player capable of reshaping the attacking sector. Paz is not only skillful, he is cerebral, seeing the game 2 passes ahead. Guardiola values that more than any dribble. Yet the negotiation is a maze. Real Madrid, aware of the talent they let slip, included a buyback clause that could block any approach. Liverpool and Chelsea are also in the race. Still, sources close to the club indicate that City are willing to wait. Guardiola believes the ideal player is not the most expensive, but the one who arrives at the right moment. He sees in Paz an inevitable future investment. Meanwhile, daily life at the Etihad remains disciplined. Intense training, performance analysis, and tactical meetings dominate the days leading up to the Liverpool match. Pep demands attention to the smallest details, from the angle of a pass to positioning during defensive recovery. The players know that facing their rival is not merely about points, but about narrative. A victory cements City as a constant powerhouse. A defeat rekindles doubts Guardiola wants to avoid. Rodri, alongside the physiotherapist, finishes his training session. The body responds well. He smiles discreetly, and Pep watches from afar. It is not merely a physical return. It symbolizes that City are whole again. The manager knows that with Rodri, the midfield breathes once more. With him, the forwards play more freely, and the defense sleeps soundly. He is the invisible anchor sustaining the sky-blue ship. The clash with Liverpool will mark the beginning of a new phase. Pep wants to show that even amid transition, City remain a step ahead. Donnarumma, newly arrived, takes charge between the posts. Ruben Dias and Akanji maintain defensive solidity. In midfield, Bernardo and Foden will be the bridge between patience and improvisation. Everything revolves around one idea: total control. City do not play to impress. They play to dominate. That dominance is the product of years of adaptation and precision. Every injury, every sale, every loan, all are variables in a continuous experiment. Guardiola reminds his team that success is not permanent. It is a temporary state that must be earned daily. The victory against Liverpool, if it comes, will be just another step in this meticulous reconstruction. By late afternoon, the Etihad is silent. The pitch lights fade slowly, and the November wind blows cold over Manchester. Inside the training center, Pep reviews footage while his assistants analyze recovery data. In another corner, Rodri stretches, focused. The expression on his face says everything. He is ready. The season is still long, and City, more than ever, appear ready to rewrite their story, not only as the team that won everything, but as the one that learned how to win again. Time moves slowly in Manchester, yet inside the Etihad it feels suspended. The calm before a big match is never real. It is merely the surface of a boiling ocean. The city breathes expectation. Fans gather in the streets, and every lit window seems to gaze towards the stadium. The clash with Liverpool is more than a game. It is the point where a season gains or loses meaning. Rodri feels the weight of that responsibility, but also the pleasure that comes with it. He has spent months between physiotherapy, pain, and silence. Now, with his body finally responding, he regains what he had lost: rhythm, confidence, and control. Guardiola, who reads his players like sheet music, sees in his eyes something that cannot be taught: the hunger to reclaim command. That is why, even with caution, he places him at the center of the tactical plan. The strategy is set. City will take the pitch in a system of total fluidity, where every piece serves two purposes. Donnarumma is the first builder. Ruben Dias, the pillar who turns defense into launchpad. Bernardo, the interpreter of Pep's thoughts on the pitch. Yet everything revolves around Rodri, as though he were the axis of an invisible machine. Guardiola does not need to say it. The squad knows. During the final training session, the manager did something rare. He stopped play midway and called the players close. He spoke about calm. He spoke about time. He said that beating Liverpool is not about haste, but precision. The match is not about running more, he stated. It's about thinking first. A message directed mainly at the young ones, especially Nico Gonzalez, who still searches for balance between energy and intelligence. The boy listened in silence, absorbing every word. Across the field, Haaland's presence demands respect. The Norwegian is living a season of highs and lows, but his predatory instinct remains untouched. Guardiola sees him as a fixed point amid fluidity. He does not need to build. His duty is to finish the creation. And when Rodri plays, the striker seems freer, more lethal. The balance between them is what makes City appear inevitable. Meanwhile, the tactical analysis department works relentlessly. Footage reveals how Liverpool press, how they open spaces on the flanks, and how City can exploit quick transitions. Cambiasso, still only a transfer target, already appears in simulations of how he would fit into the system. It is as if the club is designing the future within the present. Guardiola thinks in weeks, the board in years. Hugo Viana, the new sporting director, has become a key figure in this restructuring. His squad management is surgical. He knows City's golden cycle needs a new spine. Therefore, plans for January and July are clear. Reinforce the flanks, define the future of the youngsters, and prepare ground for the return of loaned players. Heskey's loan, for example, is not merely about gaining experience. It is part of a development program designed to produce leaders within the tactical framework. Each player is a cell in a living organism that constantly adapts. Guardiola trusts this process so deeply that he treats it as a method of survival. Modern football consumes champions fast. A squad that rules the world today may look outdated in 2 years. City understands this and acts before decay. That is why the team evolves even when it wins. That is why players are sold at their peak. That is why the project never stands still. In the dressing room before the Classic, the atmosphere is distinct. There are no fiery speeches, only concentration. Guardiola communicates through glances instead of words. Bernardo adjusts his socks. Foden breathes deeply. Donnarumma tightens his gloves. Rodri closes his eyes and listens to the distant roar of the crowd. It is the symphony he has waited months to hear again. When the whistle blows, he will know he has returned, not merely as a player, but as the heartbeat of City's soul. The match begins, and the plan unfolds with Swiss watch precision. Rodri dictates the tempo, controlling the ball with the serenity of one who knows that time in football can be molded. Every touch is a calculated decision. Bernardo and Foden interchange positions, confusing markers. Haaland prowls between defenders, waiting for the perfect instant. Liverpool try to impose their intensity, but City appear to hover above it. In the second half, the tension rises. Klopp adjusts his team. The match gains body. It is in such moments that Guardiola thrives. He alters the structure without changing the essence. Alvarez drops deeper. The attack transforms into a spiral, and space opens for De Bruyne, returning from rest. The mechanism quickens. The crowd feels it. City becomes City again. When the goal arrives, the stadium erupts. It is no ordinary strike. It is the culmination of minutes of absolute control. The move starts with Rodri intercepting a pass, circulates precisely to Bernardo, who finds Foden unmarked. One sharp cut, a low cross, and Haaland finishes, all in the same rhythm. The scoreline opens, and with it comes the feeling that something has been restored. Guardiola smiles, not in celebration, but in confirmation. Order has been restored. After the final whistle, the 2-1 victory is not what matters. What remains is the message. City, despite changes and injuries, remains a living organism. Rodri's return has brought back the missing balance. The press speak of a rebirth, but Guardiola prefers another term, continuity. To him, City never ceased to be itself. It simply learned how to breathe under pressure. The next morning, the training center wakes in silence. No loud celebrations, no parties. Pep is already meeting his staff to review the next steps. The schedule waits for no one. The Champions League continues, the transfer window nears, and focus shifts forward. Cambiaso remains a name on the board, Nico Paz stays on the radar, and Jadon Heskey prepares his temporary move. Everything flows, yet something in the air feels different, a sense that City have rediscovered what made them unique, serenity amid chaos. Pep has always believed that the most beautiful football is the one that needs to prove nothing, and his team plays that way again, without rush, without noise, simply mastering time and space. In the end, this is what defines Manchester City. Not merely talent, money, or trophies. Patience. The capacity to wait for the right moment to strike, the exact instant to shift, the perfect pause before acceleration. Guardiola built an empire upon this logic, and even if the world changes, City will continue to move to their own rhythm, almost invisible, yet inevitable. The Premier League horizon remains open. Liverpool chase, Arsenal press, Tottenham surprise. But City watch all with the calm of those who have already weathered greater storms. Rodri is back. The midfield beats again. And Pep knows that when his mechanism is complete, the rest of the world must run to keep up. Thus, Manchester City close another chapter of their journey with authority, intelligence, and the serenity of those who know that true power lies in consistency. Rodri's return signifies more than a player's recovery. It marks the comeback of the soul that sets the team's rhythm. Under Guardiola's command, City once again show why they are the embodiment of dominance, patience, and pure football. But the season has only just begun, and each match will bring new tests, new stories, and new twists that could reshape the Premier League's fate. So, if you want to stay tuned to it all, the analyses, the behind the scenes, the transfers, and every detail of this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you miss nothing. The best of Manchester City is still to come, and when the next chapter begins, you'll want to be here to witness it all unfold.